A good day to all of you out there. Welcome to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. Thank you for joining us here on Cignal TV as we present to you the news and the issues of the day. You are watching us via channels 8, and for those with high definition television, you can watch us on channel 250, and of course, as well as on facebook.com/OneNewsPH. You can also watch our replays via YouTube. Just enter One News PH, or better yet, download the Cignal Play app so you can watch us anytime you want to watch the program. Thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for those of you who watch and give us feedback, mga nagsusumbong, mga nagtuturo. Maraming salamat po. July 13, 2021, Tuesday. Let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. Okay, 12 senators filed a resolution seeking to investigate the existence of alleged state-funded troll farms. Resolution 768 aims to find out if and why public funds are spent on spreaders of fake news and disguised as public relations practitioners and social media consultants rather than using it on COVID-19 assistance. This probe comes out of the Commission on Audit findings that the Presidential Communications Office had hired so many people, and yung po yung kanilang mga title, social media consultants and public relations practitioners. And in fairness to the PCOO, I understand they cut back on the number of hiring, but at this point, I think the senators, many of whom have interest in running for higher office next year, are now determined to investigate itong troll farms, because honestly, we need to put an end to troll farms. It is divisive of the society. Now, let's go back to the front page of the Philippine Star, where former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario, okay, let's go there. Former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario reveals that ranking Chinese officials have bragged about influencing the 2016 Philippine elections. He says this was to ensure Rodrigo Duterte wins the 2016 presidential polls. Del Rosario did not name his source, which he says is a reliable international entity. And of course, that's just one of those stories, because even the United States has that, let's call it urban legend, let's call it conspiracy theory, whatever. But even the United States had those problems, those issues in the presidential election leading to the election of Donald Trump. And going back to the front page of the Philippine Star again, the palace says the government is not yet looking to provide booster shots for health workers vaccinated with Sinovac. Recently, questions have been lingering about the efficacy of the China-made jab versus more infectious COVID variants. So, hindi pa po handa ang gobyerno natin na payagan yung third or fourth shot, which is what happened to Congressman, sino na nga po yun, sa San Juan. Okay, ay ang nangyari po, yung Congressman, kaibigan ko pa naman, pasensya na kayo, kulang tayo sa yung Congressman Zamora, okay, Ronnie Zamora, good friend of my father, he apparently had, I think, four 4 shots of some vaccine kasi naman po he had I think heart condition, he had a kidney transplant, he is immunocompromised, etc. So sabi ng doktor, sir, mag-booster ka na ng mag-booster, and then because there is now a system where they can test your resistance, okay? But through a blood test, nakikita nila yung level of immunity mo. And mukhang mababa, so pinataas ng pinataas. But that's the news. Malacanang says they're not ready. And I guess it just makes sense because that's going to be part of our discussion for this morning. Dahil ang dami ko pong mga nakausap. Well, to be specific, I got several confirmations over the weekend and up to yesterday evening about private companies not having received the vaccines that they paid for. Kumbaga, hindi ba usapan natin bibili ng bakuna yung private sector, and then buy one plus one pa nga, hindi buy one take one, buy one plus one. Ang nangyari, buy one plus one, get none. Okay, we will clarify that with our coming guest. But before that, the quote of the day comes from the book of Amos in the Bible, chapter 5, verse 24. Excuse me, pasensya na po. But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. Kumbaga, palawigin ang katarungan. Ang tanong, may katarungan ba na nagbayad ka ng bakuna, ibinili mo pa yung pamahalaan, and kalabas-labasan yung pamahalaan, pinamigay naman yung bakuna. Kanya lang yung sayo hindi nabigay sayo. Okay, let's go to our first set of interviewees and guests, both regulars here on Agenda. We have Sergio Ortiz-Luis Jr., Employers Confederation of the Philippines, and Joey Concepcion, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Cito.
Good morning, Joey.
Okay, please bear with me. Sometimes I'm the bearer of bad tidings, sometimes the bearer of problems. But over the weekend, I got several complaints about private sectors, companies in the private sector who paid. One was a church, one was a big school, one was a bank, and one was a conglomerate. All of them had paid for their vaccines, and yet none arrived. Yung school daw, nag-order sila ng 1,000, nakuha nila 10 vials. Now, Joey, you're the guy who's been working so hard for the private sector to get the vaccines. What's the situation?
Number one, we bought the vaccines last year, October 27, and that was the first batch. And the second batch came in sometime early this year, about mid-January. So those are all orders placed. The delivery period was not supposed to be immediate. No, similar to all vaccines, you place a position. So that delivery was expected to be on June. Early, we're now basically towards July. No, and the vaccines actually arrived this coming Friday. I will be in the airport together with Sec Charlie and Lotis. This is the first delivery of the private sector orders. So their promise was to deliver it on June and never before that. No? So that's I'd like to clarify that. The buy one give one to the government. That was the initiative of the private sector, no? To help the government, because without them allowing us to partake in this AstraZeneca program, which was a zero profit program for AstraZeneca at $5 a dose. Just $5 a dose is only 250 pesos per dose. So that was very, very cheap. No? So we gave also to the government. But having said that, all vaccines will start arriving this July, about 1.17 million, and August another 1.17, and that will ramp up, no, all the way till this will end by next year. The delivery period and sometime February 2022. No, so that was the commitment that AstraZeneca side. Yes, they are delayed by about 3 weeks, and they will make, according to them, they will make it up as it comes along. These vaccines come from Thailand, no? And of course, in Thailand, it's a new plant, and everybody who starts a new plant, there are always beginning. When you start a new plant, there are always little problems, but they are over that, and we expect deliveries to be all the way till next year.
Okay, now what about on your part, Mr. Sergio Ortiz-Luis? What's the sentiment of the Employers Confederation and its members?
Well, many of our members joined the group of PA Joy Concepcion in ordering the AstraZeneca. Some of them also joined the other group, the one who ordered Moderna with Triclizone, no? And some of our members, especially the companies I belong to, and many of the PCI people, they opted to order uh, Novavax, no? Which I think is sadly delayed. No, I do not know whether the initial expectation that it will come sometime in late August will still happen, but it looks like it might come in September. But I think the entry of the private sector was a big help to the government, no? Kung hindi tumulong sila Joe at saka some of the Taipans, our situation in the vaccine will be very difficult, no? And I think the issue that you mentioned earlier, I think
Mhm.
that yung 50% donation, I think that is no longer true. No, I think even those who vote AstraZeneca is now able to get the whole share because to begin with, I don't think that was fair. The vaccine is a commitment of the government that they will vaccinate everybody. No,
Yeah.
so if when the private sector LGUs came in, it was a saving for the government. No, it was a big help, especially with the roll out that the private sector will help them with. So it's not fair. Why should we donate to begin with 50% to the government when they're going to people who are our workers na hindi naman yung mga owners na nag-import ng magsasaksak sa sarili nila ng lahat na yun, ano? They're going to the same people who the government intends to pay for. So I
Mhm.
think that was a good decision later on. They
Okay.
canceled it.
What do we do with this situation? Because based on and I'm not talking about small groups. I'm talking about large groups, and many of them were told that this month, just the beginning of the month, you better go to your local government units, to your barangay, and list and have yourself vaccinated there because there are no guarantees when we will get our vaccine. And quite a number of people I know who are working in the private sector, whether they were told or not, have opted to go to their LGUs to be vaccinated. How will this affect the situation when the vaccines for the private sector are delivered and then biglang, sir, kalahati or one-fourth or 50% of our employees bakunado na kasi hindi na naghintay.
No, Cito,
Joey?
that doesn't affect us at all or the government because uh, many of our employees also went forward and tried to get an appointment, and they did. No, so our
Mhm.
estimate is anywhere between 10 to 20% of our employees have taken the vaccine. Now, what will happen here is that we will have more vaccines to share with the family members of our employees, the spouses included, and now even the dependents. So that will be whatever we are able to save, we will definitely share because all of these vaccines that are arriving has an expiry period. No, you basically 4 months from the time it arrives to implement it. So and that is the intention. No, in fact, the first batch of those who ordered the AstraZeneca vaccines way back in December, we took a big risk. These are basically about 39 companies, no, the bigger companies of the Philippines. So what we did is we put a bet. You have to put a bet as far as that time, no. Now,
Yeah.
if AstraZeneca did not get MHRA approval, which like is the FDA, we could have lost all or part of what we deposited, no. So, but that's allowed us to secure the vaccines and get it at a fairly good price and help the government. So, moving forward, uh, the actual implementation right now, as we see, no, these vaccines are going to arrive. So all the private sector is ready. I mean, we've been adequately prepared for a couple of months, and they are going to use third-party providers to actually handle the inoculation of our employees. Now, with regards to the government donation, a couple of months back, Secretary Galvez said, maybe there's no need for you to donate it anymore. You can keep it. But we're seeking clarity on that position because we want to be sure that they don't need it anymore. Now, if they don't need it anymore, then of course the private sector will use that, either one to donate also to different LGUs that need our support, or share it more with the family members of our employees. And third, there's a possibility down the road that that can be the third dose. No, I mean, I know the government is not planning for the third dose, but we have to plan that already as early as today to secure that even 6 to 12 months from today. No, because I believe the third dose will be needed sometime next year. No, whether it's the second quarter of next year, but we have to secure this. We have to already plan for this because there will be also a lot of people running after these booster shots. No.
Okay, Joey, you mentioned, sorry, I just need a clarification on this point. You mentioned that as much as 10 to 20% of employees have already enlisted with local government units to be vaccinated instead of opting to wait for the private sector vaccines. Now, are we talking about your company and your employees alone, or are we talking about the ECOP or the private sector as a whole?
Well, from the members, those who bought the vaccines, there are quite a number already have taken their vacuna now. That's anywhere between the range of 10 or 20%. So what will happen there is whatever we save from this, we will deploy it again to our dependents or the spouses of our employees. No? None will be wasted.
Okay, Sergio, what about the concerns? Because we've all been pushing for the opening of the economy, the business, but it's all hinged on vaccination. What is the confidence level that we will be able to vaccinate all the key employees, personnel, people in private sector to get the ball rolling as far as the economy is concerned?
I think we have a pretty good chance, no? As a matter of fact, going back to our employees, many of the exporters who were not classified before as priorities, many LGUs like Makati, Pasay, I know that many of the employees of our members were already vaccinated by them, no? So, so we plan basically that when our vaccine come, they will be given as Joey mentioned to the family members, no? Because they also want themselves to be vaccinated. No? And if that is if they're already taken care of by the LGUs, we'll probably donate them to the LGUs who helped us out to begin with, no? And give it to them. No? I think a lot of those who imported who might not need it anymore might go to first family members and then eventually to the LGUs who help them out. And
Okay.
I think the opening of the economy is a consistent advocacy of our group, no. And I think with the improving situation in the vaccination, it can still happen. No? It can still happen. Might not be 70% as we originally
Okay.
say towards the end of the year, but our problem is we are ready. The people are ready, but many of the implementers are not.
Okay, let's
Ren?
let's go let's go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue on this point, and also I want to talk to you about some concerns regarding the migration of some businesses, as written by our fellow columnist in the Philippine Star, Andrew Masigan, that some businesses have essentially started packing their bags to move on to friendlier areas. So we'll go for a quick break. When we return, we continue our discussion with Joey Concepcion and Sergio Luis Ortiz here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and joining us this morning, our presidential advisor on entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion, and representing the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, Sergio Ortiz-Luis Jr. Okay. Joey, allow me to just clarify one that last point that we were talking about. You mentioned that the vaccines for the private sector are coming this month. Do you have an exact date, exact number of vaccines? And from there, how soon before we achieve herd immunity in the private sector business group?
Okay. The vaccines are arriving this coming Friday at 9 a.m. I suppose that should be a Thai Airlines, Thai Airway airplane. No? So we will be in the airport to receive the 1.1 something million doses. No? The first tranche for this July. And then August, there will be another arrival. Every month, there will be an arrival of AstraZeneca vaccines, not coming from COVAX. This time, coming from the private sector, what we purchased. So, and 5 days after that, everybody starts inoculating. No? All the different sites, we've Go Negocios secured about 80 different locations for those who could not meet the minimum requirement of number of doses per day. No? Now, Cito, last Friday we had the town hall meeting with, and this was the first town hall meeting that had a vision of how do we get to a Merry Christmas and a fantastic 2022 New Year, no? And what we proposed there is that while we are targeting herd immunity, well, let's start. We're targeting population protection by September, October. That means 50% of NCR plus must receive the vaccines, no? Fully inoculated. So September, October, 50%. And herd immunity is 70% before the end of the year. But we don't need to wait for the entire NCR plus to achieve herd immunity. What we propose is that the private sector, having now control over its vaccines, can now target its buildings, its factories, no, to achieve micro herd immunity. For example, in my building, I have, let's say, 1,200 people there. If 1,000 people will be vaccinated, then that building can be declared already achieving micro herd immunity, which now we are going to ask the government. All those buildings that have achieved micro herd immunity allow us to increase the number of people that can enter that building. In other words, We are now back. We are at 50% occupancy. Now, can we take that up to 80 to 100%, assuming we have hit micro herd immunity in our respective buildings, factories? And according to Secretary Duque, they are open to the idea because it's a closed system. In other words, we control the building. So we're
Okay.
looking at ideas like this to be able to already open the economy. The more people you have getting out of their house, the better of the economic activity you will have. No?
Okay, but Sergio, you were raising this issue or a complaint. Was it a complaint regarding third-party vaccinators? What were you referring to?
No, no, I have no complaint about the vaccinators. I have a problem with if it is good to open up the economy, and I think the people are ready, and the private sector is willing to do its share. But unfortunately, there seems to be some problem with the implementers. Like for instance, we cannot understand how in last March that we had to go back to ECQ when actually this is lack of foresight. Our hospitals and our health facilities are overwhelmed. It should not have happened. We lost billions economy, and I'm sure a lot of people died because we did not foresee and we did not react quickly. Now we solved Manila, they moved to the regions. I think that's catching up, playing catching up games there again. So, and but about 2 months ago, before the March closed down again, we had a survey of exporters who are supposed to be allowed to have 100% of their employees coming. And we were surprised that very few are working 100%, many of them 30%, 50%. And one of the biggest reasons why, and it is true up to now, is lack of mass transportation, and we cannot understand it. Why
Okay.
they're able to
Well,
address that issue?
yeah, but I think that's a different direction there, Sergio. But anyway, let's go back to this issue about the vaccination. Last question on the vaccines, Joey. There is some clarification required regarding who's going to vaccinate the private sector employees because some people are under the impression that the government requires that the vaccinators be public, hospital nurses, etc. Hindi daw pwede yata yung private. Is that true? And then also you mentioned about acquiring micro herd immunity. Is that presuming that even the family members of employees are included in this private sector vaccination? Because you can vaccinate your employees, but if you don't vaccinate their families, there's still the exposure factor there.
Yeah, maybe to address first, I think the key here in open economy is vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. That's the bottom line. No? I mean, that is, the more people we vaccinate, the more you can open the economy, plain and simple. Now, when we talk about micro herd immunity, that idea came about from a meeting with the mall owners and the building owners I had about 2 weeks ago. We have to create more economic activity. How do you do that? You have to get people out of their house and start going back to work. How do we do that? Now, Serge mentioned we need transportation. Yes, the public transportation has to be activated. We have to vaccinate all of those drivers who are driving the jeeps, the buses, and all of that. And what we see is a lot of the white-collar jobs are going to take the vaccine. That has a higher percentage of acceptance than the blue-collar. Now, but nevertheless, even the blue-collar is also increasing as they see more people being vaccinated, and as they see Delta as the biggest threat right now to our country, then they will be urged because of the fear. No? So why did we propose to start with the buildings? Because it's a closed system. The employees there are in our whole list. We know who are going to take the vaccine. So if you have 80% of that building having taken the vaccine, then allow that building to already bring in the remaining balance of 50%, anywhere between 80 to 100%. So how many thousands of buildings do we have in this country? The moment we allow these people to go back to work, then you have the start of economic activity beginning. Then what we're
Okay.
trying to ask the government is we are contributing on our own, buying the vaccine and really making sure our employees take the vaccines.
Okay, well, we will yet have to see the vaccines on Friday, as you pointed out. And just one quick question, gentlemen, and maybe Sergio can answer this. How true is this statement that was shared, or this view that was shared by Andrew Masigan, our fellow columnist in the Philippine Star, where Joey Concepcion also writes? He mentioned in an interview on the program that some companies are already packing their bags and leaving. Some individual businessmen have decided to just go into semi-retirement abroad. Sergio, have you heard, felt, or seen any of this among the ECOP members?
No, the closures happened with the micro industries before. No, the big ones. If anybody packs up, we will probably see in the papers. I don't see any evidence of any migration right now from people, companies that we know. Uh, but I still have to see who they are.
Okay, Joey, the last word is yours. You've been the champion of MSMEs in the Philippines. Any of this reaching you?
No, we of course many of our MSMEs are affected, no doubt about that. But I don't blame that with this administration. I think I mean, I respect Andrew a lot. I mean, I read his column, but at a time like this, we have to continue to try to give hope to everyone out there. No, I believe that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but that light will only be allowed to exist and open up if we find a way out of it, and that's why our group is really passionately trying to pursue and bring more vaccines in. And I believe the private sector, and especially us in big business, we have to always give encouragement. I don't believe people are packing their bags and packing out of this country, because I believe the Philippines has so much opportunities out there. And no matter what political color we are in, I think every administration has contributed to the growth of what we are in today in the Philippines. But now we're facing the biggest challenge of our life. How many people will survive this pandemic? Blame it on COVID. Don't blame it on the government. Blame it on COVID. That we have to find our own solution. And I believe the only way to get out of this mess is to open the economy. And the only way you can do it is to do it safely. And that's why vaccination is so important. And that's why
Okay.
I'm always saying that what about discrimination? It's the duty of every Filipino out there to take that vaccine.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Well said. And keep up the good work, gentlemen. And let's hope that it is indeed going to be a better end of the year for all of us. God bless all of you. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay strong. That's Sergio Ortiz-Luis Jr., Employers Confederation of the Philippines, and Joey Concepcion, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship. Now, we shift over to our next interviewee, and clarification lang po. No? Andrew Masigan essentially said that some companies or some businessmen were already packing their bags or migrating or thinking of migrating because it is hard to do business in an environment where things are constantly under lockdown and things are constantly changing from day to day. Kumbaga, walang stability. It is not, he did not say anything critical of the government. It was primarily because of the issue of constant lockdowns, etc., which, of course, vaccination hopefully will change. So it is nothing political, but some people just can't put up with it anymore. So they've decided to just go elsewhere. In any case, speaking of business again, we have on the line the Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry, none other than Secretary Ramon Lopez. Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Cito. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you for joining us this morning. And before I go into the real reason why we invited you, we just want to ask you any good news, any announcement that you might want to share to our viewers as far as the DTI is concerned.
Well, a lot of good news.
Mhm.
It's good to be seeing all these mga indicators that are coming out. No, as you very well know, yung mga PMI, the manufacturing index are up. They're over 50, and any number above 50, as you know, is growth. Any number below would be contraction. And so far, we've gone over 50 again. So parang we are seeing the recovery there. Back to the pre-pandemic, not exactly back to the pre-pandemic because we were hitting 52, 53 before. The other thing would be related to that, to mga volume of production index, value of production index that shows also triple-digit growth, mga 160% growth, 170% growth. Exports also had rebounded starting March, April, May. We were hitting, I think in April, 72%. The last one that came out, May, I think 29% growth. So way above yung ating projection for the year. We all expect naman the exports will be higher than the 2020. But the good thing is like looking at the level, let's say in April, the April numbers are even higher than the 2019, yung pre-pandemic level. So makita natin there's that growth that's really taking place. And to us, we'll be happy with the exports for the full year. The target is about 12% growth. And that will be a good indication that, it's part of the economy rebounding. And, the full growth assumption for this year, projection, would be somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 6, over 6%. So, maganda yung mga indications that are coming out.
Well, evidently there are real
Unemployment as well, di ba?
Yeah.
Baba rin, 7%.
Kasi nagbubukas na yung mga tindahan, nagbubukas na yung mga
Yes.
malls, etc. Okay, now, here's the thing. Other people have a different way of checking whether the economy is growing, whether industry is moving. First is traffic. Second is the purchases in stores, etc. Now, what about you? What are you concerned with the impact of traffic? Because I remember numerous studies by international organizations have always said that if the Philippines does not solve its mobility and its traffic problems, they will continue to lose 1 to 2 billion pesos a day in unproductivity. And then there's this issue of gasoline, diesel, increasing by as much as 10 pesos per liter since January of this year. Kung total lahat ng tinaas, sobrang laki ang tinaas. How does that affect all your hard work in trying to get the industry, trying to get trade and industry moving in the country kung puro traffic at saka ang taas ng presyo ng gasolina? And not to mention the very, very thin supply or margins for electricity, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, so first, the traffic. Offhand, we can see, if we see the traffic nowadays, it's a sign that the economy is going back, correct? But we don't want to see that every day moving forward. So we all know also that yung ating build has created a lot of alternative routes. The bridges that open in Pasig to BGC. Then there's another one on the Rockwell side. There's another one doon sa Manila side, sa Binondo. The new roads that are built, thousands of kilometers, diba, that's being reported. The S-Lex, N-Lex connector, so many new roads. You can see that are really working towards alleviating the traffic situation. So, para maganda yung infrastructure development, and we are seeing that already. No? Can't deny those development. Ito naman yung mga long-term solution sa ating traffic, and of course, in terms of transportation, we all know all these new train lines that are being opened. So all these are part of the solving yung traffic situation. Just like any fast-growing city, yan ang talagang dapat dinidevelop, no, over time. And we've started a lot, and marami rin na-complete at this time, no, this administration. So,
Yeah.
so
What about
that's a long-term preparation.
Yeah, what about our power problem? Because that seems to be annoying some businessmen. Na ano ba naman, panahon pa ni Cory ang blackout na yan, yung brownout na yan, hanggang ngayon pinoproblema pa rin namin.
So, totoo yun. So, yung power talaga has to be always a center or at least an area that has to attract more investments. And there are a lot of incentives being offered, no? But the thing in the power, marami talaga ngayon, we are, the encouragement is towards mga renewable energy. That's the one in demand. And there are incentives to that. They are part of the strategic investment priorities plan being promoted under the CREATE. So, continuing naman yung ating pag-provide ng incentives yan. And there are a lot of power energy, in fact, power energy projects that have been part of yung mga recent approvals natin, even in the Board of Investments, and now nakasalang sa FIRB. So, continuing yung development dyan sa power, especially for renewable energy. But the basic source right now, as you know, is coal. So, yun pa rin yung, of course, yung concern ngayon ng Department of Energy, paano ma-promote pa yung more of the renewable energy type. So, doon naman papunta yung direction. So, all these are work in progress. At may assurance na kami kay Energy Secretary Pusi na kung saan maglo-locate yung ating mga businesses, na-assure niya naman yung power supply and the work out also an affordable scheme for them. Take note also that in the CREATE law, isa yan sa may mga part of the enhanced deduction, yung power usage, local power usage, as a way to sort of offset the relatively higher cost of power in the country. But you know, the relatively higher cost of power, it's only because in other countries, power is subsidized. Yung mga may pera, talagang sinasubsidize power. But all things equal, we're all the same because especially if you're not an oil-producing country, you all import the oil. So, yung nagkakaiba lang naman yan.
I know that energy is not in your domain and it's really trade and industry, but nabanggit mo na rin naman yung renewable energy. It just, it kind of makes me wonder why the government, being one of the largest consumers of electricity in the country, why the government has not embarked on a transition to solar power or a mixed source program where, like police stations, barangay, ano ba tawag doon, hall, etc., can all be installed with solar. Because some provinces, I know some cities in the provinces have already used solar for street lights. And sabi ko, if we want to promote renewable in this country, government must take the lead in being the number one user and example.
I can agree to that, of course. I agree with you. So, dapat yan talagang maging kasama sa part of the program as we do the development projects, consciousness to link it with renewable energy, to tap new renewable energy where possible.
You can be a player. You can be a player in that, right?
Yes, of course. Oo,
DTI.
Diba, madalas yung solar power. Dahil if you are in an urban area, wala ka na magawang solar farm. So, ginagamit mo yung roof. So, marami naman ng providers yan doing your solar roof sa roof deck para talagang ito yung maging source of power to a certain extent. It's not, won't be enough to supply the power of the building, but at least there are efforts. And that's why I agree naman with you what you're saying. Wherever possible, talagang dapat yan ang direction.
Okay. Now, shifting gears, Secretary, kanya po namin kayo naabala. We had to call on you because I really didn't know who to ask anymore. May mga request dito as the pandemic hit. Of course, unfortunately, sadly, there are companies who were forced to close. And many business owners, lalo na sa MSMEs, medyo na-shock sila. They discovered that closing businesses was not that easy. sabi sa akin nga nung isang kamag-anak ko, "Kuyang, nalugi na ako, wala na akong kita, nagbigay pa ako ng pang-separation pay sa mga tao ko, now gagastos pa ako to officially close my business." Parang may babayaran pa sa ano ba 'yun, PA ano ba 'yun, yung sa
Sa mga
sa
sa
BIR,
LGUs, saka
sa et
sa BIR.
cetera. Oo, paki-explain nga ito, Secretary, at ano bang magagawa natin to simplify? Because, I mean, it is true that many of these people are broke. And maraming hindi na nga nag-officially close. Kasi sabi, bahala sila, maghabol sila. Wala naman ako maibibigay para sa kanila. And what are the consequences of this hanging officially unclosed business? Secretary?
Oo. Mahirap na tanong yan kasi that's the reality also and it's happening and for so many decades ever since. So kailangan talagang mabago yung batas yan. Mabago rin yung kalakaran in terms of yung the process of business closure. Because I'm aware of that problem na nare-release natin on the business side. Even when I was in the private sector, yan talaga yung maraming profits. Kaya minsan talaga iniiwan mo na lang na sarado. Kasi nga, ang dami mong isa-settle pagka, you will formally close the business. Especially yung mga tax dues mo, dapat isettle mo yon. Pero yung all the other concomitant expenses, yun ang mahirap talaga ma-settle. That's the reason why I agree there should be a review. We have to revisit yung procedure ng closure. And that, wala na nga, nag-close na yung business. Bankrupt na. No? Nagpasweldo pa ng tao, nagpa-retirement. Mahirap talaga yan. I cannot answer that. I mean, there has to be a change in the process. Yun lang ang ating masasabi sa ngayon or change in the law. Kung anong kailangan baguhin dyan, kailangan baguhin.
So, may batas that requires you to formally close a business, so you have to go to the Philippine, ano ba yun, yung sa mga sa corporation, etc.
Yes, at saka we'll have to siguro discuss this with the BIR side, kasi alam ko doon maraming kailangan i-settle. So, gawin na lang natin, pa-review natin uli yan, at least in our last year. At kung yan ang maraming ang concern sa ngayon, kasi experience naman natin yan, walang lumapit sa amin at ang talagang ginagawa talaga ng mga MSMEs, they simply reopen a new business. Yun naman yung, kaya nga magtataka ka may mga close to business and right now, bumaba na yung percentage closure from 16%, of course from a high of 38% last year, is down to 10%. But syempre marami pa rin yan. Pero maraming nag-register ng bago. No?
Okay.
I remember the numbers right. Over 30-40% ang nag-register.
Okay, if you don't mind, Secretary, let's just go for a very quick break. And when we come back, I'd like to ask you more about that. Kung paano nyo nalaman yung percentage of closures. Are they official closures or are they mga na-survey lang kasi? We'll go into a break and we'll be right back with Secretary Ramon Lopez of the DTI here on Agenda. Okay, Here on Agenda, I'm Cito Beltran, your host, and you are watching us via Cignal TV, channels 8 and channel 250. Secretary Ramon Lopez is with us. Secretary, there we go. Okay, Mon, you mentioned numbers regarding closures of companies over this year and the last year. Paano po ninyo nalaman? How did you determine that there were 38% closure then down to 16 now? Are these
10,
based on
yeah.
formal filing or are these based on mga parang random survey lang, parang sa eleksyon?
Yeah, survey ito, Sito, bali about 33,000 firms being surveyed by DTI regularly since especially during the start of the pandemic to monitor their condition. So ilan yung fully operational, ilan yung partially operational, at ilan yung nag-close. And yung closure, many of them cannot tell yet at the time kung partially closed or finally closed. No?
Okay.
So basta naka-measure lang yung close for that period. So we noticed as we were opening up many sectors over time, dahan-dahan, calibrated, and bumababa naman itong number of closed companies, the percentage.
Okay.
That's the reason why yun yung numbers. Survey yan.
Those companies that appeared on those surveys are ayoko namang sabihin may small time, may big time, no, etc. Generally, the definition is, are they a well-known company or were they mostly mom and pops na or single proprietorship na nagbukas, nagsara?
Marami dito kasi ang profile naman ng ating registered businesses 99.6 halos lahat micro SMEs 99.6% 0.4 lang naman ang large. So many of these really are micro SMEs. But we didn't identify anymore kung micro sila or small or medium. But by mere percentages, marami talaga dyan yung micro, 80+%, 86%, if I remember right, micro na Small would be about 10%, and then the balance would be the medium. Very small na rin ang medium in terms of percentage. So you can say that most of these are really the micro and small size businesses.
Given all of these things, the state of business, the closure, the reopening, the new upstarts or startup, sorry, not upstart,
Yes.
startup. How does all of that affect the performance rating of the Department of Trade and Industry? The president will be giving his State of the Nation address. What would be the grade of the DTI if we were to ask you? Kasi syempre, no one knows better than the secretary himself regarding the performance of his department.
Oo. So where we can, yun naman ang mandate ng DTI, mag-provide ng trabaho, negosyo, at saka consumer protection. So sa trabaho, yung investments, yun ang parati talaga, that's what we've been working on to create yung investments that will create jobs. No? So dito na monitor naman natin yung mga investment performance natin in terms of the BOI registered. And right now, yung FDI, even the foreign direct investments, kasama sa monitor natin, it's the one issued by the Bangko Sentral. And there are also good signs, especially for this year. I mean, riding on the pandemic, we see already some uptrend of growth trajectory looking into the FDI, especially in the first quarter. So, investments going up. Yung sabi ko nga kanina, even yung mga exports and manufacturing index going up. Doon naman sa negosyo, micro SMEs, you can only also say that all the programs that we are supposed to do, we've done also on policies. So yung programs that we've been doing, were the accomplishments in this administration, ang feedback sa amin, mas naramdaman yung mga programa na ginagawa, especially sa maliliit na negosyo. So we're talking of the micro SMEs. And that's part of the negosyo part, yung trabaho negosyo. Yung negosyo part, it's really micro SME development because dito talaga libo-libo yung uh, in fact, babot pa sa mga about 2 million, lahat ng mga naservisyohan ng negosyo centers, lahat ng mga naka-attend ng seminars, lahat ng mga nakapag-negosyo at lumaki na negosyo. So if you look into those numbers, they are pretty encouraging. No? Micro SME in terms of 360-degree support, training, mentoring, microfinancing, equipment, lahat ng pwedeng support. Even market exposure. Dito natin nagawa yung everyday trade fair. Dati trade fair, 3 days na.
Yeah.
Period. Ngayon, everyday because we put them in the stores. We uploaded them in mga digital platforms, even the popular ones. Hindi kami nag-reinvent. It's all about partnership and it's all about creating a market access for the SMEs.
Yeah,
di ba?
yeah.
Tago dati yan. Ngayon, makita mo na sa mga Shopee, Lazada, Google, My Google Business, and many partnerships that we've entered into. The training, digital training that we provide to them.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting because I actually saw a program. I'm just not sure. Medyo wala akong katulog-tulog at may malungkot na pangyayari kagabi. But in any case, I saw a program of a school somewhere in Africa. Where it was a school of artists, well-known school for artists, and wala silang mapagbentahan ng kanilang mga paintings and artworks because wala ngang travel, walang maipadala. But what happened was they partnered with the UNESCO so that the work of the students and the artists would be featured online, and there would be clients who would receive notification on all of this. So yung sinasabi nyo, hindi malayong mangyari kasi ngayon nga, ang dami kong mga produkto dito, yung katulad solar. Puro solar na ako dito kasi nakakainis yung laging naiiwanan yung bumbilya na kapuat. And I never imagined buying solar garden lights or street lights. So you're correct. Using online has been very beneficial to producers. Pero how did all of this lockdowns, online transactions affect yung mga kaibigan natin sa DTI? Mga kaibigan ko, mga tao mo, no? Who wala nang biyahe. Dati, ang daming promotional trips abroad, ang daming padala, marami kayong, in fact, I think the last I attended was in the PICC where you had a event showcasing all of the products nurtured by the DTI. Paano na yan? Napilitan ba kayong magbawas ng mga tao?
No. Actually, nag-shift talaga lahat to online. Even our auto na mga physical or the Go Local that you can find in the malls that are featuring SME products is also now online. So the trade fair that we do, national trade fair, usually yan sa mga mega hall, ano ba tawag doon? Hall sa mga mega mall. No?
Mega trade hall.
Mega trade halls at the 5th floor or in Ayala, Atrium. So, yung mga smaller halls, nagagawa na uli ngayon yan, smaller exhibits. But ever since the pandemic, even at the height, in ECQ, lahat ng virtual trade fair na. So, we've really shifted to more virtual. Yung the travel that we're referring to, lahat din yan virtual na. I mean, even we've been doing a lot of fora, talking to a lot of investors. Maganda nga mabilis talaga yung virtual. Malaking game changer talaga. Now we don't have to spend much more funds for travel. You can do already the communication. Of course, iba pa rin yung face-to-face, no? Pero this is a better, I would say, the best substitute, no? I guess there's no other choice as well. But efficient na. Hindi ka na bumabiyahe, hindi ka naghintay sa airport, hindi ka na mag-hotel. Right there and then, you're able to talk and to investors. And we've been speakers in many chambers. We have a Make It Happen campaign right now. Everywhere, we're there. Australia, US, Japan, and from time to time, hindi lang to once a year. So, maganda itong nangyaring virtual conferences, virtual trade fairs. Lahat ito are being done talaga more efficiently at less cost. So, maganda yung nangyari. Of course, iba yung may physical din, eventually, babalik tayo sa new normal. Kasi doon nahahawakan nila yung mga produkto, yung exhibit, and orders come in. Right now, orders still do come in. But still, iba pa rin yung mga and then you just send samples. But
Okay.
that's the model nowadays.
Okay.
Even e-commerce. No?
May nangungulit dito, Sek, pasensya ka na, no? Pakitanong naman, ano ba yung nangyari diyan sa adobo? Ano ba yung adobo issue na yan? Parang, ayoko nang patulan, pero, I'll give you the opportunity. Is this really an issue or was it just a thought?
No, ano siya, well, ganito yan. DTI has been active in addressing fight against pandemic, di ba? The reopening, every day, mamaya may IATF na naman kami. So maraming ginagawa talaga na, kumbaga, crisis mode and planning and strategic. This one, yung strategic din ito eh. Hindi ito para palitan yung recipe ng bawat tahanan. Obviously, hindi po natin, yung mali nga yung word na standard eh. Hindi yan ang ibig sabihin dyan. Ang ina-attempt ng DTI together with other agencies and the private sector is to come up with a basic traditional recipe na ipopromote abroad so that Pilipinas can own an adobo, Philippine adobo. Kasi abroad, maraming ibang cuisine, mamaya tawagin pa yan Mexican adobo. Hindi pa tayo, parang what we wanted to own is the brand of adobo na Philippine, and pag pinromote mo yan, meron kang parang traditional recipe. Obviously, any chef, any housewife, or any parent can cook their own adobo, but there is the basic recipe.
Yun. Okay.
Yun lang yung ibig sabihin yan. At saka, strategic in the sense, part ito ng creative industry exports natin. Alam mo, sa exports, hindi lang product. Nandyan din yung creative side, which is ito, of course, may film, mayroong graphic design, may software, may gaming, music, lahat yan, creative industry, ine-export natin yan. And cuisine is one. At pagdating sa cuisine, ito yung wino-work out. And this is, frankly, a work not only by DTI, but DOT, DA. At ang kinoconsult lang dito, yung mga chef, private chef. So, and in fact, yung mga chef nga, sabi, we don't need to do this, sabi nila, no? Talagang nagvo-volunteer lang sila. At among themselves, to come up lang with a basic recipe that we can promote. At yung, kaya ko sinabi strategic, pag na-introduce ito abroad, kasunod dito, yung mga Filipino, mga produce ng farmers, mga ingredients.
But I think more importantly, it's about establishing identity and what is our cultural treasures. Kasi maraming masyadong mabilis gumalaw ngayon sa social media, nakakaligtaan nila na dati maraming Filipino products ngayon, iba, nilalagyan pa ng made in the Philippines pero gawa abroad.
Exactly.
Okay, pati yung mangga natin, pinalalabas na Philippine mango, pinalaki sa Mexico, etc. So medyo
ganito din yan. Kaya at saka yung contrary to, ang bilis magsagot syempre sa social media, alam mo naman, maraming magagaling dyan eh. So talagang sinabi ka agad, paano yan? Hindi ko na magagawa ito. May penalty ba ako pag disumbong? So,
okay. Ako malapit na ako ma-penalty kasi 3 minutes overtime tayo dahil dito sa tinamaan na adobo na yan. But anyway, thank you very much as always, Secretary Lopez, for your time and for the clarifications. And we hope that in the zona, you will get at least 85 if not 90 in the grading. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat, Mr. Cito, at saka sa inyo lahat.
Okay, yan po si Secretary Ramon Lopez, DTI, and I am Cito Beltran. That's today's agenda. Keep it here on One News PH, where you get the latest news. God bless you.